The Holy Empire of Money, How the Vatican Built the Richest Religious Institution on Earth. 1. Faith and Fortune, the Hidden Architecture of Holiness. The Vatican stands as the richest religious institution in human history. Its paintings, its basilicas, its treasures, together rival the museums of entire nations. Its bank quietly manages billions, its influence stretches from Wall Street to the world's poorest villages. But here's what few ever ask: this empire of wealth was not handed down from heaven. It was built, brick by brick, deal by deal, through centuries of faith fused with power. Footnote 1. The Vatican's endurance lies not in theology alone but in economic adaptation. Faith financed through strategy becomes empire. 2. The turning point, from persecution to privilege. In 313 AD, Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity through the Edict of Milan, ending centuries of persecution. Overnight, a once persecuted faith became a state-backed religion. Aristocrats donated estates, emperors endowed cathedrals, and Constantine himself financed the first St. Peter's Basilica. From that moment, the Church learned the first law of empire: money is power, and power sanctifies money. Footnote 2. Legitimization transformed Christianity from moral rebellion into a fiscal institution. State sanction is always the first asset. 3. The medieval machine, tithes and the economics of salvation. By the early Middle Ages, the Church invented its first great revenue system, the tithe. 10% of every believer's income flowed upward, from peasants to parishes, from parishes to Rome. This was not charity. It was taxation cloaked in salvation. By the year 1000, the Church owned a third of all land in Western Europe: fields, forests, mills, vineyards, producing wealth centuries before modern finance existed. Footnote 3. The tithe was both a moral obligation and a fiscal innovation. Spiritual coercion replaced legal enforcement. 4. Selling heaven, indulgences and the monetization of sin. When tithes and land no longer satisfied Rome's appetite, a new invention emerged: the indulgence. The offer was divine marketing genius: pay the Church, shorten your time in purgatory. Gold flowed into Vatican coffers. The faithful believed they were buying salvation. The Church was selling time itself. Those indulgences financed wars, art, and the papal lifestyle of kings. Footnote 4. Indulgences marked the transition from material taxation to psychological monetization, a currency of guilt and hope. 5. The Crusades, faith as geopolitical business. The Crusades, launched in 1096, were framed as holy wars, but they were also profitable campaigns. New taxes funded armies, indulgences replaced participation, and conquered lands enriched the papacy. By the end, the Vatican wielded spiritual, military, and financial power rivaling monarchs. Footnote 5. The Crusades fused theology with geopolitics, turning salvation into a state-sponsored commodity. 6. The double standard, poverty in sermons, riches in practice. Priests preached humility while popes accumulated palaces. By the late Middle Ages, the Vatican was Europe's largest landlord and tax collector. Sermons warned of greed even as Rome perfected it. This was empire disguised as faith, the moral narrative for the masses, the financial machinery for the elite. Footnote 6. Dual morality is the foundation of enduring power, preaching restraint while practicing accumulation. 7. The Renaissance bankers of God. By the 1400s, popes had become princes and financiers. They funded armies, patronized artists, and outspent monarchs. The jewel of this ambition was the new St. Peter's Basilica, a temple so magnificent it demanded a financial revolution. To pay for it, the Church doubled down on indulgences. Preachers like Johann Tetzel roamed Europe proclaiming, "As soon as a coin in the coffer rings, the soul from purgatory springs." It was salvation for sale, and business was booming. Footnote 7. The Renaissance Church pioneered religious capitalism, faith marketed through fear and spectacle. 8. The Papal Paradox, usury and the banking elite. Officially, the Church condemned usury as sin. Unofficially, it partnered with Italy's great banking dynasties, the Medici, the Lombards, and others, to move and multiply its wealth. The Papal Court became the financial nerve center of Europe, managing royal debts and shaping currency policy. The Vatican sat, spider-like, at the center of a monetary web connecting crowns and capital. Footnote 8. Every prohibition becomes negotiable when power demands liquidity. 9. The Reformation shock. When faith became a protest in 1517, Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to a church door in Wittenberg. He accused Rome of turning faith into a marketplace, of selling forgiveness to the poor while living in excess. The Reformation shattered the Church's monopoly, and indulgences, the Vatican's golden goose, became its greatest scandal. Ironically, the same sales that paid for St. Peter's also funded the rebellion that nearly destroyed the Church. Footnote 9. Moral outrage is history's most powerful currency. When belief collapses, no balance sheet survives. 10. The Vatican without land, losing an empire, gaining a bank. In 1870, Italy's unification stripped the papacy of its papal states, its armies, and much of its income. Many assumed the Vatican's worldly power had ended. They underestimated its financial intelligence. The comeback arrived in 1929 through the Lateran Treaty, when Benito Mussolini paid the Vatican vast compensation, 750 million lire in cash and $1 billion in government bonds. In modern terms, billions of dollars. The Church had lost territory but gained liquidity. Footnote 10. Losing land liberated capital. Sovereignty became negotiable when financed by dictatorship. 11. The Vatican Bank, the sacred corporation. With its windfall, the Vatican founded the Institute for Religious Works, the Vatican Bank. Officially a steward of charitable funds, it evolved into a secretive global player. It financed anti-communist movements during the Cold War, and by the 1980s was entangled in the Banco Ambrosiano scandal, where billions vanished and banker Roberto Calvi was found hanged under London's Blackfriars Bridge, his pockets full of bricks. Footnote 11. Transparency is the enemy of power. Secrecy converts moral authority into geopolitical leverage. 12. Sacred wealth, the art that cannot be sold. Today, the Vatican's financial empire hides behind sacred art. The Sistine Chapel, Raphael's frescoes, Michelangelo's Pietà, all priceless, and therefore unsellable. Yet collectively, they represent billions in frozen capital, legitimized as faith. Footnote 12. Cultural sanctity transforms wealth into untouchable power, assets masked as holiness evade all scrutiny. 13. Faith and finance, the oldest corporate model. The Vatican's empire mirrors every great institution since Rome itself, taxes disguised as tithes, indulgences as insurance, treaties as bailouts, and banks as divine intermediaries. Its genius was simple: convert belief into revenue, and morality into markets. Footnote 13. Religion became the prototype of corporate capitalism, promises of redemption exchanged for perpetual revenue. 14. The modern parallel, governments, corporations, and faith in paper. The Vatican's story is not ancient history, it is a mirror. Every modern system that asks for trust while quietly enriching itself plays the same game. Governments print faith into currency. Corporations preach ethics while squeezing labor. Banks promise safety while gambling with deposits. It's the same design: faith on the surface, money underneath. Footnote 14. Institutional survival depends on narrative trust. Collapse begins when faith and function diverge. 15. The final lesson, the mask of virtue. When you gaze upon the golden halls of the Vatican, do not see only religion. See the oldest formula in financial history: wealth built in the shadows always wears the mask of virtue. And every time you're told to trust a system, Ask. Who profits from your belief? Because history doesn't repeat, it collects interest on those who refuse to understand it. Footnote 15. Every empire begins with belief and ends with balance sheets. Faith is the collateral of control.